yours. Look at that then. Quiet, please.
You'd have to approach. We can't vouch for our voices extending into the far reaches of the stacks. No. Well, ní seoladh go hóráid, I'm afraid there'll have to be speeches. There's no proper launch without a speech. So I'm the publisher at Cork Press, and it was my pleasure to be associated with the production, the editing, the putting out of this book, which is full of gems and joys. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen up here that Desi has assembled all, I think every last one, Desi, of the books.
Nearly.
Which he commends in this book. So I'm sure that you can buy the books as well as buy the books as well as buy the book. To perform the official launch, we have with us John Quinn, whom I met, it must be nearly 20 years ago when I published his first and very successful children's book, The Summer of Lily and Esme. We were introduced to each other by a very shrewd Shercock woman, Conti Cavan. We were introduced, and John went from strength to strength as an author, as well as carrying on his day job of producer of very fine programmes in RTE. Now, he started off as a teacher, a bit like myself, and indeed like a lot of people involved in the Irish literary and publishing world, Iarvún Tuirish in our fog. So I'm sure he'd be conscious of, when he's saying this to you, to talk to you about Desi's book. So I'll hand you over to John Quinn, who's going to perform the official launching of Kenny's Choice.
But first, we have to officially open Kenny's Bookshop. Anyway, thank you, Joe. And isn't it wonderful to be able to say, once again, here we are in Kenny's Bookshop. I remember I stood in the shop in High Street 42 years ago, as a young fella then, and walked in awe and amazement. And I remember the book I bought too was Never No More by Maura Laverty. And if anybody out there, if the person to whom I loaned it is out there, you can put it back in a plain brown bag and there'll be nothing said. But I never realised that someday I'd be launching my own book, an adult novel, with Poor Beg. The children's book, but the adult novel was launched in Galway, and that I'd had my photo on the wall, and I found myself over there looking a lot younger. I thought I had been lost. But for the past 2 years, we've been lost souls, really, here in Galway, wandering aimlessly in search of our spiritual home, and here at last we found it again. But make no mistake, when the doors closed for the last time in High Street as a bookshop, the lights went out for many, metaphorically as well as physically. A part of the soul of Galway was lost. And I remember at the time I tried to capture that in a poem, which I called The Lament for Kenny's Bookshop, which of course is redundant now.
This is the resurrection.
40 summers ago I crossed your threshold and found myself like Cortes, stout and disbelieving in Darien. I made my first trade and won Maura Laverty's Never No More. From that day I have explored your golden empire and discovered islands of delight, bays of plenty, and pleasure-laden groves. I have scaled your craggy heights and lost myself in nooks of knowledge, enticing eyries, and darkened caverns, walled with rarest gems, each time paying due obeisance to the queen of the realm, dispensing favours from her dads. And now its journey's end. How Brazil fades, El Dorado crumbles, lost horizons to weary fame, never no more. But as I say, redundant now. Maybe I should try a new one. I'm trying to think of a title, but on first looking into Desi's new home. And of course we could buy online, and of course there were other bookshops, but we were missing the Kenny's experience. The touch and the feel and the smell of old books. The delight of finding a long-lost volume. The surprise of finding an unexpected volume. The time to wander and to wonder and to choose. And again, the personal advice from herself and her minions. And then a couple of years later, only 6 months or so ago now, we lost herself. And once again, I felt compelled to write. The Queen is dead. Long live the Queen. I will always remember you as the Queen of High Street, seated on your throne, welcoming us, your loyal subjects, with beneficent smile and kindly words, dispensing the largesse of your queendom, inviting us to stroll among the royal terraces and sample the delights of your ward gardens. When eventually I wrested myself from your charms, I paused at the palace door and wondered, should I curtsy before leaving? So, was there no hope for us? Were we to be forever abandoned, mired in a slough of despond, never to more to have the Kenny experience? It seemed so. But maybe if we were missing Kennys, Kennys were missing us too. And Mirabella Dictu, here we are once again, in Kenny's Bookshop. Not a cyber shop, not among virtual bookshelves, but real shelves with real books. And what a bookshop. Twice as much shelf space, according to Desi, 150,000 volumes all around you, and all on one level. Yes, I know you'll miss the creaking stairs and the nooks and crannies of High Street, but personally speaking, when you join the KKK, that's the Knackered Knees Club, you appreciate a one-level shop. Accessibility is all. Look at the delights before you and all about you. Beautiful treasure trove in here, the antiquarian books, the out of print, the history, the local history, the poetry, the children, the philosophy, the politics, the rare books, the pamphlets, the old newspapers, the unexpected. A fella could die happy here, especially if there was a little coffee shop in the corner. At the very least, he could escape from the world of bank bailouts and toxic debts. And maybe that should be bailout debts and toxic banks, and lose himself in these Babylonian word gardens and find nourishment for his soul. I was just reading earlier in the week that last Wednesday, I think, was the 100th anniversary of the publication of The Wind in the Willows. And Arlene Battersby pointed out that Kenneth Grahame, the author, was the Secretary of the Bank of England. And that was the ideal time. That's when you had civilization in banks. It was all downhill for the last 100 years. The opening sentence in the introduction of Desi's book says, people thought them mad when on the 29th of November 1940, Des and Maureen Kenny opened the doors of their spanking new second-hand bookshop in High Street, Galway. And I'm sure there are many people who think the Kennys are mad all over again on the 10th of October 2008 when they open a spanking new bookshop. I got a bit worried about that word, Des, but I looked it up and it said, I presume what you meant was spirited, going freely and beyond None of those.
Interpretation is everything.
But opening a spanking new bookshop in an industrial estate and in the middle of a recession, well, why not? Now more than ever, we need a spanking bookshop. And look around outside on your way in. Not quite an industrial estate, it's more like a little village. There's shops, and restaurants, coffee shops, and you can even park outside. In this evening's case, you could park your boat outside. And why not? Here, I hope, will be readings, literary evenings, book launches. Here will be Mecca. But above all, here will be the delight of books to be savoured and bought, not just for browsing. Here, born again, will be the Kenny experience. So I'm truly, truly flattered and honoured to have been asked to formally declare Kenny's Bookshop open, and I do so now. About the book, Kenny's Choice, 101 Irish books you must read. There is no rhyme or reason to this book. They're not my words, they're his, and he compiled it. There's no James Joyce, but there is Christy Moore. Seamus Heaney rubbed shoulders with Pat Inglesby. I'm not in it. John Bell